Okay, it is with great pleasure that I am introducing Eric Regan, longtime EE community member, and we always appreciate his support and coming to these conferences, sharing, being very gracious with his knowledge and insight. Eric, for those of you who don't know him, is the COO, and co-founder of Focus Lab, a branding agency.
All right.
And also a business coach. He has evolved in his career from a musician. We got to see him play the guitar a couple years ago, to developer, to entrepreneur. And I think with that, he always has such great things to say. Like I said, so insightful. We're really just thrilled to hear about how we might all want, live the dream at some point and be able to take some time away from work. As those who follow you on Twitter know that you were able to take some time, a significant amount of time away from work this year, and we're all jealous. So let us know how to do that. I'm going to let you take it away from here, and we'll have some Q&A at the end.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, I want this to be possible for everyone. I'm going to make sure I can see everything that I want and need, and then I'll fire away. Give me 1 second. All right. One more click. All right. So first off, just thank you so much for the introduction. I'm really excited to be here today at the EEConf for 2021 in the fall. The EE community holds a special place in my heart. It was instrumental to me quitting my day job and starting my agency. I have close friends that I've met all because of an awesome piece of software that I stumbled upon, over a decade ago. So as we get started, I actually want to go back to that time for just a minute. But before we go there, I want to invite you to think about something for me. Think about where you are in your professional life right now, regardless of if you consider yourself early in that journey, maybe somewhere in the middle, somewhere else in the timeline. Just think about where you are and think about some of the people who played an important role early on from where you are now. Someone who maybe influenced you. Maybe they gave you an opportunity. Maybe they just gave you a great example. Maybe it's a family member. Maybe a teacher, a friend, someone in a professional community. Find a person who played an important role and just kind of hold them in your mind for a moment. We all have people like this in our lives, and I would like to share with you about two of them in mine. So 11 years ago, I was about 6 months into full-time self-employment. I'd been using EE for a couple of years and started to really enjoy sharing with others what I'd learned to do with it and what I'd learned about it. So in the fall of 2010, a stranger took a chance on me. The first EE event that I attended was a virtual one-day conference. It was called Engine Summit. I'd seen all the big names in the EE community on Twitter and in the forums. Well, now I had a chance to see them teach at a conference, and I loved it. It was really awesome, and I realized I wanted to do that too. So I reached out to one of the organizers. His name was Christopher Schmidt, and I asked him if he would consider me as a speaker for the next virtual Engine Summit, and I made the cut. That was my first dip into teaching Expression Engine on a stage in any sense. Now, 1 year later, I was invited by Robert to speak at EECI in Brooklyn. And this was my first speaking gig where I had to hop on a plane to go speak. And I just have so many good memories from that trip. Both of these events are products of the Expression Engine community and the wonderful people in it. And both of these events are significant milestones in my journey. And sadly, both of these gentlemen are no longer with us. So today, this talk goes out to Christopher and Robert. I've got a great deal of appreciation for them both. So today, we're going to look at what it takes to build a business that can run without you for a month. Now, everything I'll be sharing is easy to understand. It's not always easy to do, though. So I'll aim to make it easier by way of some specific tools. So why are we focusing on a period of 1 month? Despite what may come to mind, this isn't about a trip or a vacation. It's about your organization's ability to operate without you. Now, looking at this in terms of a full month gives us the best perspective into the problems that we need to solve. Most businesses go through a full cycle of processes and operations within this 30-day window. So, if you can be gone for 30 days, your business is in great shape to function without you. But if you just limit it to just a few days or even a little over a week, your business can often afford to delay things that need you. But if you're gone for a full month, the business is forced to support itself. So I've done this 3 times myself so far, each one being for slightly different reasons. And most recently, I took 5 weeks off earlier this year. No communication with the team, no emails, no clients, no nothing. 5 weeks disconnected. And when I came back, we were wrapping up our best month in over 15 months. So I realized I was a problem and I decided to retire. Okay, so maybe not that part. But like I said, regardless of how I spent my 5 weeks, this is not about having the ability to take a long trip, for example. So here are some other benefits to designing a business that can run without you. You end up with better delegation and empowerment of your team because they need the ability to run things in your absence. You have the ability to be absent suddenly, whether it's due to illness, maybe needing to care for someone else that you know or love. Maybe there's an accident, injury of some kind. You also have opportunities for like an extended leave for sabbatical or rest. Doing this can help prepare for succession efforts if you plan to hand over the reins someday. And also, doing this can kind of contribute to future acquisition valuations or exit plans. So this is definitely bringing us more value than just the ability to take a month off for a trip. Throughout our time today, I'll be sharing some interview clips with another agency owner who spent 33 days away from his business unplugged. And he did it in 2020 while COVID was changing the world around us. So there are 3 contexts that we're going to cover, and he's going to help us talk through them in different segments. There's going to be you as the individual. There is your team. And then finally, we're going to talk about systems. Lastly, I'm going to be referencing a few books that will be a great follow-up to this talk if you want to dig into those. So more on those in just a bit. But to get us going, I'd like to introduce you to Jay Owen. Jay has been in business for over 20 years. He runs a marketing agency based in Florida. And I've known him for a few years, and I knew that last year he took a month away from his business. So here's a quick intro to Jay as he talks briefly about this recent month away from his business. Is this the first time that you've actually tried to take an extended period of time away from your business?
This is the first time I had taken this long. I've kind of worked up to it over time. So, back in the day, I felt like I couldn't even take a day off, much less a week or certainly not a month. And so this is the first long block that I've taken off, which was a whole 30 days, 33 technically. But in the past, I've done 2 weeks. That was about the longest I'd done prior to that. So I've been kind of working my way up to it.
When you and I were talking recently and you told me you did this, I'd seen some of your, we follow each other online. So I'd seen some social media updates about what you and the family were up to during that break. But it just dawned on me one day. I'm like, wow, he's not only taking this full month away, but he's doing it in 2020, like the year of COVID and all these just drastic changes. I'm curious, what led to the decision to taking that time off? And did you decide that before the world kind of shifted, or did you do it after? What was that like?
Yeah, I had planned it well before. I'd kind of set it as that was one of my personal goals for 2020. I think it was really a personal goal and a business goal to some extent, because if I can take 30 days off, it means the business can operate without me, which means the business is more valuable. And so I had planned it well before the pandemic in 2019. And then the pandemic hit and I thought, man, can I still do this? Like, this is crazy right now. Am I really comfortable with, leaving for 30 days and being disconnected? I mean, literally the instructions I gave to my team were, do not contact me unless like the world is on fire. And even then, call the fire department first. And the world was practically on fire. I mean, that's the crazy thing. But I just decided, you know what, we've put all these things in place. The people haven't changed. The processes haven't changed. There's a lot of outside dynamics that have changed. But I just decided that me being here wasn't going to drastically improve or protect the business during that season. And so I needed to just continue with what I had originally planned, which is taking that time off.
So we're going to hear from Jay a few more times throughout this session. By the end of our time today, I want you to feel empowered and encouraged to go ahead and put a 30-day vacation somewhere on your calendar, vacation or whatever you want to call it. It might be 2 years from now, but maybe it's just 6 months from now. Committing to it now, though, and working towards it with the tools we discussed today will be an excellent investment in your business and in yourself. So we're going to launch into 3 contexts with this quote from the ever-popular book, The E-Myth. I want my business to run not because of me, but without me. And that's Michael Gerber. So let's talk about you and let's talk a bit about me. That's the first context of this. It's you. The reason that we start with you is something that you've likely heard before. As John Maxwell says, we are each the lid of our organization. Transformation and change often need to begin with us as leaders. And one place we may need to be transformed is simply in how we think, or more specifically, in what we think is possible. I like to think of it as elephants that are trained for in the circus. Now, where they begin to train the elephant for the circus, they chain the baby elephant's leg to a pole deep into the ground. Now, the baby elephant wants to get away. He pulls and he tugs, but he can't escape. The chain is too big, and the pole is too deep in the ground. So he eventually stops trying. As this elephant grows up, he just assumes he can't get away. Now, today, he's a 6-ton elephant. He could sneeze and pull out a chain, but he doesn't even try. He knows that he can't break free. And here's what happens. Circus trainers can then use a simple rope tethered to the ankle to something that's not even deep into the ground, and the elephant feels that rope's presence and just knows that he can't break free. So it doesn't try to do it. Now, this is what Ken Blanchard calls an assumed constraint. It's a belief that you have based on past experience that limits your current and future experiences. If you feel like you can't break free of your business for 4 weeks, I want to challenge you to stretch your thinking. That's old thinking based on past experience. We are going to create new experiences here. And so as we go through our time today, I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, you might have some doubts about whether it's possible, and Jay did too. So we're going to go to Jay and see what he had to say about that. I'm curious about your leading up to this, and maybe even in the early stages of your idea or your vision to be able to do this. Did you yourself ever have any doubts that this was possible, or that this was, that it was simply possible?
I mean, leading up to it, I really didn't. If you had asked me that years ago, I would have said there's just no way. I mean, there have been plenty of times in the past. I mean, I've been in business for over 20 years, and the first decade, literally, I didn't take a full week off. And by taking a week off, I don't just mean like I'm going to go lay on the beach with my laptop or with my phone. I mean, like, I am not doing any work whatsoever. Now, I might listen to an audiobook or something like that, but even on this trip, I tried to not even do those things. The audiobooks I listened to were all fiction, and that was on purpose, or maybe they were personal development or spiritual, but they were not like how to build a better business or how to create better processes or how to improve your team or how to be more profitable. None of that stuff, because I really wanted to just clear my mind. But I mean, if you had asked me, 5 or 10 years ago if it was possible, I would have told you there was no way. But at that point, there wasn't a way. I had to create a way for that to be true. So Jay had to create a way. So we're going to talk about 3 problems that we need to consider when it comes to ourselves and how we can create a way. So they're on the screen here. The first problem is that
you still need to drive most of your agency's sales. Number two is that we don't feel like we have enough time, or you don't feel like you have enough time to make this a possibility. And then the last one is that you're the CFO, which I'm going to come back to in a minute. But let's take a look at each of these. First up, sales. Most agencies are started by a person or a group of people who are good at a trade. They started charging customers for their service. They get to a point where it can become their sole income, and boom, they have a business. Now, to keep the business going and growing, the founder engages in sales conversations with new customers and repeat customers. Over time, it's more common for the founder to hold on to the sales and to let go of the trade than it is for them to let go of the trade or let go of the sales and hold on to the trade. Now, this means that it's not uncommon for you to get 5 or 10 or 15 years down the road and still see a founder leading up those sales conversations. Maybe you've heard something along the lines of, no one can sell your services quite like the founder. This is a pretty common refrain among digital agency owners that I've met over the years. Don't let this myth allow you to feel like it's a fact. It's possible to find wonderful people to join your team and to help with sales. It's also possible to completely hand over sales at some point. You just need to do it on purpose and with a plan. So let's talk about that second one. Time. We have to look at taking control of our time. In fact, we need to kind of budget our time like it's the valuable resource that it really is. To do that, first, we need to know where the time is going today, just like we would do with money. If you've never audited your time before, it's definitely a worthwhile exercise. You basically take up a couple of weeks of commitment and tediously write down everything you do and the time it takes. Then you categorize those things into a few buckets, and from that, you can kind of zoom out and start to evaluate if you're actually spending time doing the right things and for the right amount of time. So we'll talk a little more about that in just a minute, but let's quickly take a look at this third item. This is about your hidden job title. Some of you may not know that you have a hidden job title, but you do. It shows up on your business cards in like invisible ink or something, or maybe it's in your email signature in white copy. It might even be a title that you are proud of some days. Too many times I see executives, though, embracing it with an admirable commitment. And the role is CFO, or Chief Firefighting Officer. Many of us still bounce from fire to fire as we run our businesses. If that's you, it is time to retire that job title. And to do that, we kind of need to audit our time and then reduce our firefighting and create some margin in our days. So this book, Clockwork, is basically a playbook for structuring your business to support a month away. It's actually a book I wish I had when I took my first month away 4, 5, 6 years ago. I'm sharing some snippets from the book today, actually, and I recommend that you buy a copy for a reference if this is a path that you want to go down.